welcome to Floor Models Kit Review Time. Today we've got Trumpeter's new-ish. Okay, it's about a year old, 172nd Wellington MKIII. Now, as I say, we've only seen this really in other manufacturers, and to be honest, some of the old ones are pretty good. Tends to be raised detail on these anyway, so we're not expecting, you know, sort of recessed paneling and stuff like that, because as you'll see, most of it should be raised. So that's why the old Matchbox ones, Airfix ones, things like that, were pretty spot on. So as you can see, down in the kit, you can see a lot of this ribbing work, very nice box art down on there. So a few little profile shots of what you can expect on there down there. And you've got your kit number 01627. And then a little bit about the actual aircraft itself and so on. Okay, so in the box, we actually get, stands up nicely, see quite a stuffed box full of sprues. Okay, so like always, we'll start with the instructions. Okay, so there's our profile sheet like that. So Wellington MKIII, so usual thing, got your sprues, the various things down there. Starting off in the cockpit, as you can imagine, pretty straightforward. The bulkhead going in. It's 1/72 scale, so we're not expecting mass detail in here, but we do want a nice level. So that's that bit put in there, and obviously you've got the wireless operator gunner and things like that down the back. Top of the bomb bay, again, some nice ribbing detail. It looks like this is going to follow through in there, and we've got some nice bulkhead formers and things like that going through. Bomb bay itself, as you can see, we've got the centre and then obviously the bomb bay running down the middle like that, and then obviously more formers, so we've got some nice detail in the side of this kit as it's going right the way through. Then we're on about the actual engine, so we've got the radial engines going together, putting those on. Looks like we've got an option on the actual cowl flaps being open or closed, okay, and those putting in just like that. Coming up again, we can see a lot of this sort of lattice work. Don't forget, this is a fabric bomber. It's not like the old the metal ones. Obviously there's metal on certain areas, but most of it is lattice. Okay, and that goes right down to the windows as well. So as you see, some nice internal details in this one. There is windows in it, but you're not going to see much of this stuff in there. All right, so we've got the nose and tail gun obviously fitted in there, pretty straightforward, no problem at all. Wheel wells, again, looks like we've got some nice details up in the wheel wells and the framework as you go in. Tail, or the horizontal stabilizers are sitting in there, and the tail wheel, again, we've got doesn't look, oh, we have got positionable, which is very nice touch of the actual ailerons, which is a lovely little thing. And then obviously fitting those together, the wheels and obviously the engines being fitted in. Another page, there is. Okay, exactly the same for the other side, and then it's bringing down these two halves together, obviously putting in all the parts in there. Then the wing system, the tail planes and the rudder system all being fitted in there. You've got an option on the props as well, obviously depending on which one you've got. And then we've got the antennas, the various bits and pieces, your final glass work, the belly glass work. Bomb bay looks like we only have the option to be closed, although we'll have to have a look at that, but obviously you'd want it open. So down there like that. Again, I think the Wellington is a bit like the Hurricane, certainly here in the UK. It got overlooked by its bigger, probably more capable, brother, I should say, for the world, things like that. And that was obviously the Lancaster. Now, the 4-engine Lancaster came along, and in its early days it had real troubles, it was underpowered. Then obviously it got the great Merlin engines, had a few upgrades, and it turned into that brilliant bomber as we know it now as a heavy bomber. And unfortunately things like the Wellington were sort of overlooked, but these were a mainstay. Coastal Command, there was different versions of this. And say I've got a family tie to the Warwick, which was an upgraded version of the Wellington, bigger wingspan, depth track, and all the rest of it. So you know, there is lots of derivatives, but it always is overlooked by other bombers that came out. So you've got your colour call-outs down for your sheets down here. So this 300 Squadron in Suffolk in 1942. The standard RAF Bomber Command colours of the brown and green over the black underneath. Okay, so pretty straightforward in that. You've only got one option down there as well, which is a little bit disappointing. Right, in the box, we'll start with the sprues, the main sprues. Skim that one out. Right, as you can see, this is what we were saying about that. Technically, the older kits, such as, you know, Airfix, Matchbox, things like that, and certainly even the predecessors before them, had this aircraft right because it was all raised details, and that's how it follows through here. But what is nice, we just drop this top camera down just a little bit. As you can see, we've actually got this framework. Now, as you can see down here on there, okay, the artwork may be a little bit over the top, if I'm honest, but definitely you can see all this stuff because it is fabric. Okay, so you've actually got all this lovely texture on the outside, and we've got raised details on this one. You can see the lattice work for the window here and all those areas, but you catch it in the light, you can actually see what we're talking about. Okay, so if we just drop this one just down a little bit, you can actually see some very nice details down in there like that. So generally you have to think that they've got it right, okay, by having this type of detail. And then when you flip it over, which is a lovely touch, we've got all this lattice work running down here on the inside. Now we're not going to see much of this obviously, but again, it is very, very nice the way that they've done it. It's just a very nice, you know, internal upgrade. The windows, as I said, very small, but it's nice how the lattice work carries on down in here and all that, you know. Right, so what things are here? Let's have a look at the wings. So we've got the top half and the bottom half. Okay, this may be a little bit overdone. I don't know. As you say, I haven't been around a Wellington in real life. It just looks pretty high, all of these areas. But generally I think by the time it's painted and then perhaps very lightly dry brushed right the way over this, you're going to get this texture stand out and it is going to look very nice. It just looks a little bit heavy going. Okay, and here's the other wing. As I say, they're both exactly the same, just a mirror to both, but it's very nicely done. It's very nicely moulded. If it's correct or not, obviously that's a different matter. Okay, so moving down here into the smaller areas. Bag actually open. Okay, so we've got a match pair again. So down in here, as you can see, we've got the details for the actual engine, the pods with the wheel wells and that down here. Very nice. We've got no ejector pin marks in all of that. Very fine detail. The wheels themselves exquisitely detailed. They are really, really nice. No problem with those at all. And generally, just looking down through the parts, you can see very nice indeed. No problems with any of those. All the little ejector pins, things like that, are all completely out of the way. Nothing's down in. It's not the sharpest moulding in the toolbox, let's put it like that. There's a little bit of flash down on these guys, but nothing major. But we do like those wheels, they're very nicely done. This one down here, we've got some of the bulkheads. Right, go out of the way. Just cut that one. Okay, so down in here, as you can see, we've got ejector pins on the top, but technically this is the Bombay underneath, which there isn't much to it, but we've got beautiful Bombay details down in these down here, very nice done. The bulkheads are all very nicely done all the way through here. The control column sticks, things like that, the yokes, I should say. Tail wheel moulded in one, a little bit crude, but okay with that. We've got actually very nicely detailed. Some nice details, like down here on the cockpit floor, you've actually got texture on the cockpit floor, which I absolutely love. But generally, no problem at all. All the ejector pin marks are very much out of the way, and in either that or very accessible places where you can get to them quite easily. Okay, so we've got match pair again. So this is the different props. We've got the slim prop, and you've got the more paddle type prop for the different ones. The engines themselves, a little bit of flash around them, perhaps a little bit, but nothing really we would shout about. Okay, and then you've got the actual mounting areas as well. We've got the actual ones which are in the open and closed position for the cowl flaps, although they don't really look massively open. You can see them on there, but they're not hugely open. That's obviously very much like the real thing. The guns themselves, a little bit basic, not the sharpest moulding down on those, but they are extremely thin. Wouldn't hurt to go down the aftermarket route, perhaps some new barrels. Very nice that the exhaust on here is obviously moulded in, or the air scoop I should say, is moulded completely hollow, so you can see straight down in there. Generally pretty good. A little bit of flash just down here, but we're okay. Happy with all of those. Okay, so we've got, now these are the famous sort of brass or different coloured rings. Some people do them in brass, different colours on here. Very nice they're moulded separately, because you paint those and put them on as a separate, but they are a little bit flashy, just a little bit need a bit of clean up with these, and the rest of the front part. This is what this is before you get to the sort of the flaps, the cowl flaps, then the rest of the engine. This is this section here. Very nicely done. They're just a little bit scrappy, a little bit of flash. You might be able to see down here on this one down here. There's a little bit of flash just down there, but generally pretty good. And then this guy's down here. We've got the exhaust. So you've got two types of the exhaust system. And then the framework, so as you can see, you've got the metal areas on these tail planes and then the fabric in the middle. Same with the actual rudder itself, and the vertical stabilizer. Very nicely done. Actually, very impressed. It's actually one of those kits, when I first looked at it and saw it and I was thinking, it's a Wellington. Now I've got it and you compare it to other people's Wellingtons, this one's definitely a step in the right direction. So, clear parts. As you can see down here, normally Hobby Boss and Trumpeter pretty good with their clear parts, and I don't think that's any exception. They are very nicely done. I don't understand why they've got the lattice in here again, because you've actually got it in the plastic moulded in, so I don't know why they've done that twice. This down here, I won't bother getting it out, it's just the turret. It's nothing brilliant, it looks pretty clear. That's pretty nice. This guy here though, we'll have open up to the cockpit. So again, cockpit absolutely crystal clear, very nice indeed, no problem with that at all. And then the front turret, as I said, it's very complex. It's the way it's moulded. You know we're going to have anything that you could shout home about, but generally very nice the rest of it. And the decals, funny enough, you get one in the box, BH or BT, that's what you've got. But then we've actually got, it's VBH. Also, actually, we've got 300 Squadron and 300 TU as well. So that's the training unit for the Lancaster. So you do get two options. So it's the Polish one, okay, and the training unit as well, and obviously the decal for the actual instrument panel. So there we go, a Wellington. Is it a step up? It's definitely better than the old kits. Does it go together well? Can't guarantee it. I haven't built it yet, but certainly I think if you are in the market of a Wellington, instead of going down the old school route of obviously the old Airfix, Matchbox type kits, things like that, this is definitely a way to go. So there we go, the Trumpeter 1/72 Wellington Mark III.